Okay, everyone, so good evening. Welcome again to the fourth module of how to meditate. Everything on here. So as always, we're going to start with about 20-25 minutes of meditation. So let's just get into our body a little bit more and our breathing, as we usually do. So the 4 points in meditation, the first part is to kind of just prepare our body and mind, getting into that central position mentally, physically, where we feel we have some energy, clarity to meditate. So usually that means just by, correcting the posture, starting to connect with the body and the breath. So as we've done in the last few weeks, breathing in, maybe a couple of times more deeply. Just breathe in through the whole body, through the whole stomach area. And just a big exhalation out with the grosser energies of the day, the busyness of the day, just letting that release from our body and mind. 2-3 breaths just to do that. And let's do a couple of minutes of scanning the body. So again, we are breath and awareness, the top of the head, crown of the head. Starting to move down the body with breath awareness, like massaging our body, with mind and breathing. Going through the crown, the brow, the eyes, breathing in and softening around the breath, around the eyes, around the mouth. A few breaths in the head and neck area. And at the same time, correcting our posture with those 7 points, the crown going up, the spine naturally falling down, to the base of the, where we're seated. Trying to get that awareness there as well as we just gradually go through all the different parts of the body. Bringing awareness, clarity, kindness there, as well as sorting out posture, correcting the posture. So now to help to clarify the mind, give a little more energy, brightness to the mind, we do the 9-round breathing meditation. So again, imagining the grossness of our body, the physical body, the bones, tissues, blood, cells, everything gradually kind of dissolves into more the nature of light. as we see in the image here, the light body, the Buddha, or just our body becoming more like light. In the central of the center part of the body, just in front of the spine, there's this, these 3 psychic channels. Central channel, it's blue in colour, each about the width of a piece of bamboo. Left channel's white, right channel's red. Even if we can't see them, we just try to feel, see if we can get a sense of this more subtle body that we have. The channels, these are the 3 main channels of the body. In reality, we have 72,000 channels. Winds, subtle winds all going through the channels, including these 3 main ones. So the aim in kind of tantric practice is to try and bring those winds into the central channel. It's very difficult to do that. But, in the start, we can at least try and get a little bit familiarity with that central pivotal point of the body. There's a lot of strong, powerful energy there. And we can visualize, just clearing the outside winds, the outside channels. And, in the third round, we try and just visualize those the breathing going into the central channel. First time we just purify the left channel, breathing in through so bring the first finger of the left hand, breathing in through the left nostril, exhaling through the right 3 times. Then the first finger of the right hand, closing off the left nostril, inhaling through the right, exhaling through the left 3 times. Clearing the other outside channel. Then when we inhale through both nostrils, we can sort of visualize that the winds go in through the bottom, as we see in the picture there, into the bottom central blue channel, and just kind of dissolve in there and clarify that channel. Doesn't really release. Even though we do exhale, we feel like the essential winds that really gives us energy and clarity for meditation, they dissolve into that central channel. We still inhale and exhale 3 times. So an additional exercise we can do to clear the mind before meditation is, now that we've dissolved the winds at the 2 outside channels into the central channel, we imagine like the vitality of the consciousness is sitting just a few inches below our navel, like a small sesame seed. Imagine our whole mind. Awareness is just concentrated there. Just be there for a moment. And then our mind, our consciousness in that small, like sesame seed-like place just below the navel, shoots up through the central channel, through our crown, and completely absorbs with the sky, becomes oneness with the vast blue sky. So we breathe in, and then as we exhale, we imagine the mind shoots up and just completely, becomes one with the sky. Vast awareness. We just going to spend 2 or 3 minutes in that place. That sky-like place of awareness. That's our object of concentration, clarity of the mind. So we inhale, and then it shoots up out through our body, and we just absorb with the sky. The feeling, the experience of being with the sky. If you lose the object to the sky or the space-like nature in mind, just do the same thing with a seed or consciousness being in that bottom lower channel. And as we exhale, inhale and exhale, it shoots up. And again, absorb with the space of sky. Try to be with the sky and see the thoughts like clouds, just allowing them to pass by. So although it's not the emptiness, this meditation, but it helps us to connect with this, what we call the conventional nature of mind, this clear and knowing aspect. And it also helps us just to get a little bit start to detach from thoughts. Sometimes using as our object the clarity of mind, clarity of consciousness, for some people that's more helpful than using the breath or using an object like an image of Shakyamuni Buddha that we visualize. Some of us can go more deeper and meditate for more longer on that object. So we need to try out different objects. See what fits for our mind, for our capacity, where we feel we're making some progress with that object. So again, one of the key parts of our meditation practice on a daily basis is to, formulate and gradually deepen our motivation, not just on the cushion, but for life. This Discovering Buddhism class is about reconfiguring, deepening and with our wisdom, guiding our motivation for life. Not just this life, but the Buddhists would say for lives. So again, in that space, more quiet space, try to think about your motivation for the evening. What would come up if we just ask yourself that? What's the motivation for coming to the class, attending the modules of Discovering Buddhism, signing up? What motivated you? Get that clear. So as we discussed or heard about last week, we started this meditation with a little bit more concentration, using the clarity mind as our object. So alongside of that, if we can think about some aspect to the Buddha's teachings in our daily life to widen the sense of our motivation, to deepen our knowledge of the teachings and our experience of the teachings, analytical meditation. So actually our analytical meditation for the day can really be our motivation as well. It can be both. So one kind of quote, or it comes in about a few verses from the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by the great master Shantideva, one of the key texts that His Holiness travelled around the world and taught. So from that, one of the chapters, Shantideva writes, explains, that, rather than, if we want to walk all across the world, so rather than covering the whole earth with something comfortable, so we don't, damage our feet, we're not going to cover the whole earth with leather. That doesn't make any sense, to protect our feet from roughness, from getting harmed. Rather, we protect our mind, we put on some shoes, we protect our feet. So we can much more easily walk around the world and not be harmed. Similarly, like our mind, rather than trying to fix things out there so that we feel comfortable, fix people or situations or life, trying to find a solution outside ourselves to find satisfaction, to find inner comfort. It's much easier to protect the mind, to find the solution. The solution lies in protecting our mind, protecting our mind from suffering and creating causes of inner peace and happiness. So this is the leather, this is the material we need to, use for our mind, to develop our mind, the Dharma. This is the main protection for the mind, applying the Dharma, starting to understand and apply the Dharma teachings, or what we already know, trying to deepen that within our inner experience. And if we check out in all our life situations, it's the same, It's that much we know how to protect our mind from suffering, that much less we suffer. When we have the methods and we practice them, regularly through familiarity, and gradually it just becomes spontaneous, natural, not to get angry. not even to feel irritated in any situation, because we've applied the Dharma on a deep level, to our mind, our consciousness. And this can happen all the way through to the deeper issue of the mind, ignorance that grasps at true existence. It's just a matter of familiarity with certain methods and meditations to transform the mind. So it's wonderful. It's amazing, mind-blowing that we have these methods available. In the past, some of the great masters, great enlightened beings, they traveled for months through deserts, through mountains, through snow, in violent and dangerous places, almost at the risk of their life, to receive just a few words of the teachings, It's really true. You can read it in the life stories, through jungles and forests and everything, because they felt the Dharma was so precious, But right here, we have it on our desktop. But it's still important that we have to recognize its preciousness. And the only way we do that is by applying it to our mind and feeling the deep benefit, the deep healing that it brings, through constant listening, reflection, and meditation on the teaching. There's no other way, we have to ingest it that way. And we have, a precious human life. We have this existence. Susie and I were discussing today how much gratitude, if we think deeply about we all have problems, but we have this freedom to be able to access and listen and reflect on Dharma teachings, this pure tradition that came also through the hardship of many great beings to preserve it, Only through their realizations, their hardship, are we able to receive this now and take some benefit. So just that alone creates a lot of merit, so we have incredible merit. We're very, very fortunate. See if we can feel that a little bit, how fortunate we are. It's very hard if we're born in war-torn places, places where there's extremities from the elements afflicting us all the time, places where we don't have freedom to practice, spiritual paths that we're inclined to. So there's just in this realm, the human realm alone, there's so many examples of that. Let's just spread our mind out and think of all the places where this is the limitation of the situation of the human rebirth. So it's not to make us feel guilty, but rather to try and inspire us to grasp whatever we can from our human life to improve ourselves more, improve our mind, develop this profound Buddha nature that we all have. So let's, in this space, see if we can just take a moment to make a determination to, take the essence of this life more by making a deeper commitment to our practice, even if it's an extra few minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day. Can we do that, on the basis of feeling that we really have this precious opportunity to develop the mind? And then to finish our meditation, another way to give joy, inspiration, depending on an inclination, is to just try and draw forth the blessings of the great beings who had so much determination, energy, wisdom to be, to really practice, to put their human life to great use, in terms of inner development of the mind, using all the circumstances in their life to develop the mind. So another way just to finish our practice can sometimes be just chanting a few mantras, that inspire, uplift, awaken, open up the mind. So here we have Shakyamuni Buddha. We all know what the Buddha looks like. Imagine him just glowing like the sun in the space before us. He was absolutely just like us at one point. And only through the power of familiarity, determination, consistency, he developed the full potential of his mind, his fully developed wisdom and compassion. So the sun of the Dharma shone through him, he was able to arise in this radiant golden body that has each part of the body signifies a different realization, a different power that embodies. The mantra embodies this just through the sound, the syllables, embodies this sense of power or controlling, this ability to be able to control our delusions, gradually have the power to overcome them, our delusions. It's the essence of the mantra. So we're receiving that blessing for Shakyamuni Buddha through light and nectar, uplifting our mind like the sun, allowing it to rise out of ignorance, rise out of anger, attachment, hatred, giving that power to us for us to be able to arise above that. So let's chant a few mantras together, visualizing golden light and nectar coming for Shakyamuni Buddha, and just uplifting our whole being and our whole mental continuum. Taya da oi mine mine ma mine ye so. Taya da oi mine mine ma mine ye so. Taya da oi mine mine ma mine ye so. Taya da oi mine mine maha minaye soha. Taya da oi mine mine maha minaye soha. Taya da oi mine mine maha minaye soha. Okay, so we can come out the meditation. Sorry, my camera wasn't on. Oh, video there. There we go. Okay, at least you heard me. You just didn't see me. Now you can see me. Hearing was more important at that point. So this evening, I'm just going to run through to the start of the slides for tonight. Oh, we done all that last week. So I can't quite remember. Last week, did I mention the Lamrim yearbook? Maybe not. Okay. So this is amazing, this Lamrim yearbook. So how many of you have seen this book before? Urs, I know. Kelly, I suggested it to Kelly. Anyone, any other hands? Bay, she'll have seen it before. So actually, Ocean of Compassion, Venerable Katie leads a weekly meditation, is it, Bay? Yeah, on this, we're using some of the meditations in this book. So this book is a big advertisement for this class and actually for Discovering Buddhism. I really recommend it. And here's where you can download the free PDF. It was written and put together by one of our senior students, Alison Murdoch. And it's basically a series of daily, you know, you get a lot of these books that are like daily insights for 365 days a year by His Holiness. You know, there's a quote, you know, to inspire you. And I think different traditions have books like this. So this one for Discovering Buddhism is excellent for giving you a, you know, it's 365 days of the year. So, you know, it's, you could read, you know, one every day or every other day, or, you know, as part of your, it can be, as I was mentioning in the meditation, you know, when we do our meditation, you know, as last week I mentioned, we start with sort of clearing the body, doing some breath work or yoga, or whatever works for you, and then starting our motivation. But as I try to guide in this, you know, depending on our time in the morning, our motivation can be something out of this book, you know, because it's each page, there's, as I say, 365 days, and there's a page for each day, maybe like half a page of a topic on the Lam Rim that was taught by either Lama Yeshe or Lama Zopa. And it's the orders in the right order for going through the Lam Rim as you're going to go through in the following modules. You know, the next module you'll do is presenting the path. So that's more like an overview of the other modules that you're going to go through. So the book starts with a little bit on mind, you know, nature of mind, what we started with in the first module. The next few chapters are actually on guru devotion. So that won't come into being till module 4. But even if you can't, you know, basically you can even just stream through the book and choose, you know, something maybe on precious human rebirth, on death and impermanence, on the nature of samsara. Each day there's something, a short teaching on, and it's more like a reflection on that topic. So, because most of us, I understand, you know, most of us are working. You know, even myself as a nun, I haven't just been in retreat for 25 years. You know, I've had to work and serve the Dharma. I've had a lifestyle of, you know, having to serve centres, work at my teacher's house. So we have to make our practice work for most of us around our working life, you know. But it's important that we do make it work and that we make it feel nurturing, you know. And we're constantly creating these imprints on our mind for the Lam Rim. The Lam Rim is the gradual path to enlightenment. So this is a wonderful way to do it, because the student who put this together, Alison Murdoch, also was similar to myself. I mean, she's been a director of a centre. She started her secular programme, Foundation for Development of Compassion and Wisdom. She ran, you know, a centre for over 8 years. She started her secular aspect of the FPMT for many, many years. So she herself was struggling to, how does she fit the Lam Rim in her daily life and continue to sort of nurture the realizations in a way that's suitable for someone who's working. So it's very much set up for people who have other commitments, you know, either family commitments, work commitments, but in a way where you're continually dropping in a very succinct way with the Lam Rim. And also through the blessing of the gurus, you know, the spiritual teachers, through their words have a lot of power, you know. So by reading their words, their teachings, has a certain power to affect our mind. So I very much encourage you to use this book alongside, you know, either, you know, you can use it as an analytical meditation, just one of the, you know, one of the topics, one of the days. Use that as your, you know, do a little bit of breathing, whatever object you have a concentration, sit with that, and then reflect on, you know, one teaching. It's more like one sort of essential piece of advice on one of the topics of you know, of the Lam Rim. So it's really, really a wonderful book. And then you can also, you know, as we're going to go on here, you can also add a little bit of mantra or visualization if that's, you know, feels benefits your mind. You know, we're going to go into that style of meditation tonight. Any questions? Anything? Is that probably quite straight?
I have a question
Yeah,
about this book. I read it like last year, and I every day I wrote down, like I copy the page, because
yes,
every page is explaining the topic of
yes,
language. And
yes.
I wanted to ask this question: if you, when you say when we don't have time and we concentrate on one, do you talking about every pages or every topic of Lamrim? Because
Sorry,
every pages is different.
yes. So every
Yeah.
page, there might be something like about 6 to 8 pages on death and impermanence, yeah, that topic. There's
Mm-hmm.
another, maybe 10 days on precious human rebirth. So to be honest with you, it really depends on your time. If you have time, maybe you want to decide that one week I'm going to do a meditation each day on the guru devotion topics, because there's at least 6 to 8 to 10 pages on guru devotion, different, slightly different, because each of these Lamrim topics have a lot of different points. It's not just like, okay, precious human rebirth, our life's very fortunate, and that's it. It's quite a bit deep analysis in each of these topics. So one way is, if you have not enough time, maybe one week you do the topic of guru devotion. Another week you work on the short teachings there on precious human life. Another week you do the short teachings on death and impermanence. Does that make sense? Sorry, who's actually asking the question, just so I can see?
Yeah. It's me. My name is Ladan.
Oh yeah, Ladan, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. Thank
Otherwise,
you.
if you have more time, it doesn't mean that you just can read one page a day. I mean, I'm not limiting you to that either. But
Yeah, I
actually,
did it because one page a day, I thought that I can like kind of copy it and kind of let it be in my mind,
yes,
because it's kind of, if you're new to every subject, it's kind of um interesting, and it's difficult.
yes, yeah. I mean, none of
So
these.
so each day I turned the page and I wrote it down each day, I to
No, that's excellent, Ladan. That's excellent. I
learn it.
think, to be honest with you, even myself, when I go into do some retreat, it's not like I just run through the Lam Rim. That's not the point. Each page it's a way, as I say, what are the 3 ways to deepen our practice? Through listening. So in this case, it would be reading the page, reflecting on it, and then meditating.
Yeah.
It's a whole process of ingesting that point.
Mm-hmm.
That point that they're raising about death and impermanence, that death can come at any time. That's one point. And even within that,
Yeah,
there's a few points, so there's always some
exactly.
sex. So actually, we are supposed to really take our time to savor, meditate, savor the taste, and slowly bring it into the mental continuum. It does take time. And that's why ideally maybe we decide, okay, this year I'm going to read it one time and I'm going to go back and read it again next year, possibly
Of course,
complemented by another deeper book like
of
Liberation
course.
in the Palm, or some of your other teachings that you get through the Discovering Buddhism, to kind of broaden that understanding of that area.
Yeah. There is another book,
Mhm.
Yangtze Rinpoche had a book on the
Yes,
path of
practicing the
enlightenment.
path.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Practicing
that
the
one, that one is that's more elaborated. So we go into these points in even more detail, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, in a retreat setting, whether you're on your retreat on your own or you're in a group retreat, you would go into these points in even more detail and spend more time reflecting and meditating on them, so they go deeper and deeper. But Venerable Renee, some of you know Venerable Renee is a very
Yes,
famous
yes,
teacher.
I listened to his teaching.
Yeah, so he's been a teacher for many years, and he asked Children Rinpoche was a great Lama in this area for many years. And I remember I was here about 20 years ago when he said to Children Rinpoche, at what point, something he asked about, at what point do you stop meditating on the Lam Rim? And he says, no, you never stop. I mean, even the great yogis, that was just, you know, like Milarepa. I mean, everything he saw was a teaching on the Lam Rim. You know, he was so, the experience was so deep in his mind that when he heard a sound, he heard a rustle in the wind, he saw people interacting, everything reminded him of the Lam Rim because it was so integrated in his being, you know, it was so rich for him. So for
Beautiful.
each of us, you know, it's like this is just what we do. Once we feel like the Lam Rim's benefiting and affecting our mind, it's not something you just say, okay, well, I've done that now, you know, I've done that course, you know. This is a life or lives practice, you know, as all these Buddhist practices are. It's just what we're trying to do here is to find how we get a taste, you know, how we kind of develop a sort of a complete practice. You know, so we're also able to deepen the Lam Rim. How do we do that? You know, because the main point is to get Lam Rim realizations all the way up to emptiness and bodhicitta. You know, these are the higher realizations. And we step by step train our mind till we get some more deeper taste of those realizations as we you know, we sort of graduate in the lower scopes, you know, the lower aspects. But so that's the goal. But there's other things that we really need to get Lam Rim realizations, you know. So we need this sort of complete, we kind of need a complete practice for that, you know. So this is kind of what we're trying to practice and learn about in this module. And as we go through the other modules, there'll also always be meditation. So you get a more rounded aspect to your daily practice and how you can do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, any more questions? Chat, was there something? The Lam Rim, I saw something and got it. What was that? The Lam Rim, not the Lam Run. Very good, Jay. It's a marathon. It's a long, slow marathon. But the longer and slower you take, but much better. You know, much better. You'll get a deeper taste, you know. So anyway, so that's my advertisement. Is I really encourage all of you to download that book. Fortunately, we have so many materials through FPMT that we offer for free or by donation, because we have also a lot of kind sponsors who like to sponsor these kind of publications. So how do I get that off the screen, Susie? Sorry. Oh yeah, close. Sorry. Yep. Okay. Okay, next. So the last 3 weeks, we kind of discuss more these types of meditation, analytical, concentration, placement. So it's important. We need to work on that, gradual, and also analytical. So as I said, I was trying to guide a little bit of analysis tonight, mainly through just deepening our motivation, you know, thinking about some aspect of the Lam Rim. And again, this is how we use that book. The book's just there for us. We don't have to sift through lots of teachings to find the essential points. It's gathered there kindly through Alison's great work. You know, she's put this handbook together for us to use. So to deepen, again, still to deepen, we're not done yet. So we still need to engage in other types of practices to be able to deepen our Lam Rim practice, as I was mentioning. So what we use in this tradition, you know, we are in the sort of tradition here in this Tibetan Buddhist tradition, has both the teachings on Sutra and Tantra. You know, so tantric practices, Vajrayana practices, involve visualizing deities, certain Buddhas, not just one deity particularly, there's many different deities and Buddhas who embody certain qualities and realizations that we are trying to develop in our own mental continuum, you know, like, you know, Chenrezig, that's Tibetan for the Buddha of compassion, or the Sanskrit is Avalokiteshvara. Or, you know, there's a traditional Shakyamuni Buddha who generally embodies all the teachings and all the realizations. There's a medicine Buddha who embodies this quality of healing, you know, healing. I mean, yes, external healing in illness, but also healing the deeper sufferings that were under the control of karma and delusion. And then there's also, you know, Tara, who's the embodiment of, you know, female embodiment of all the Buddha's activities, enlightened action. And she embodies this quality of fearlessness, being able to purify our fears and obstacles on the path. So that's just a selection of the few Buddha practices, and definitely in the beginning it can be a bit overwhelming. There's so many of them. Sometimes it's easier to go into a Theravadan temple because you have the Buddha and that's it. Then you go into a Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there's tankas and statues, but we just have to take time, to get used to it. And actually it's a great kindness that came for the Buddha that we have all these practices available to us. It's again, I always use the analogy, it's like going into, all of us want, when we have sort of physical challenges or in the body, it's nice to have a variety. We live in Santa Cruz, we live in San Jose, we all live in nice places where there's a variety of different doctors available who specialize in different types of healing, because not all of us, it works to Western medicine or acupuncture or Ayurveda. We have all these different types of healing in the shops. We have like an incredible amount of supplements. Again, that can be a wee bit overwhelming as well, but we do have it, So that's our merit, our good fortune, that we have so much available to us to be able to heal the body. So similarly, the way we look upon it in this tradition is we're so fortunate that all these Buddhas, Shakyamuni Buddha manifested, we call it he manifested in these different ways, these different forms, to heal our mind of different sicknesses, different problems. That's the main point, these Buddhas help to heal and also to develop the inherent quality within that Buddha, that particular Buddha. So it's like in the beginning it's overwhelming, but actually we start to feel, wow, we're so fortunate. We have all these practices available to us. I want to work on my anger and my self-centeredness, so I'm going to do a lot of Chenrezig practice. Or I'm feeling I've got sicknesses right now, I need healing, so I'm going to do this medicine Buddha practice. And actually the way that the practices are set up, these preliminary ones, which belong to the class, there's different classes of Tantra. So the ones that we want to start with as beginners are the Kriya Tantra practices, Action Tantra. They're more readily or easily, more easy for us to begin with. We graduate onto the higher Yoga Tantra practices. But the nice thing about, there's an easiness with the Kriya Tantra practices because certainly the sort of preliminary practices in these are very similar. We use the same prayers and similar visualization process. So once you get a handle on one of them, like the Tara practice, then, the medicine Buddha, the Chenrezig, we can sort of start to move on to other ones because we have a basic understanding in one of the practices how to do it, how to do the prayers and the meditation. They're all similar, but they have a little bit different taste, and a different effect on the mind and a different outcome on the mind. So yeah, and also as it says here, for our Shine, I'm just dropping in these terms because the more you hear them, the more you'll get familiar with them when other teachers mention them. Shine, or object of calm abiding on an object, calming the mind by abiding on one object. We can also use the image of a Buddha, visualized in front of us, instead of the breath or the nature of mind, consciousness. Another object one can use is the image of a Buddha. So if you're already doing some kind of purification practice or Kriya Tantra practice, sadhana, then you can also spend some time just with that object of the Buddha and focusing on that object outside of you. You can combine that way to help with your stabilization meditation as well. Any questions? Okay. So here we go. So next slide, yes. So of course, in the Buddhist tradition, of course, we meditate on Buddhist deities. But even I remember I was watching right now we can call it like Chenrezig practice, medicine Buddha practice, Tara practice. But as we graduate a little bit more, you'll hear this term Guru Yoga. Now, some of us might not have a guru right now. That's totally fine. Nobody's asking you to jump in and leap in and find a guru just so quickly. That takes time, but sometimes you'll hear these terms Guru Yoga, like Chenrezig Guru Yoga, medicine Buddha or Tara Guru Yoga, you know, and that basically means seeing the deity and the guru as inseparable, you know, so we see Chenrezig inseparable from our spiritual teacher. You know, so if we have had something like an initiation from a spiritual teacher on Chenrezig, as some of us here may have had during Ling Rinpoche's visit. So if we were doing Chenrezig practice and we've had the initiation from a guru, or we've had a transmission of the mantra even, we can start to feel that, you know, actually the guru and there's a lot of kind of psychology and thinking around that, and we'll go into that more detail when we get to the 4th module. But we start to train our mind to see that the guru and the deity are inseparable. And why I mentioned that is because I remember watching some documentary on one young lady, probably similar to myself, but she was even younger. She went into a Christian monastery or nunnery when she was about 16, you know, and she was talking about in the morning they would get up for 2 hours and meditate on God, and then kind of feel God in the sky above them, and then dissolve God and feel one with God. Not that I think they feel they can ever become God, but they were the meditation was to kind of feel this closeness or oneness with God. You know, so I thought, wow, that's just like what we call guru yoga in the Buddhist tradition, you know, like we're trying to get close to the qualities of the deity. We're trying to get, so that's what's happening when we visualize and we do the mantra and these prayers. We're trying to develop a close feeling, a closeness in our heart, the opening of the quality of that deity or being in our heart. And so yoga's kind of, isn't yoga like yoking, that it's like means to yoke or something. We're trying to yoke or bring forth within our own being the quality of that deity. And if we have a guru, we try again through faith and devotion to try see that inseparability. And that kind of practice is meant to hook the blessings of the deity more quickly when we see it, the connection or the inseparability with the spiritual teacher, the deity, the guru. So anyway, so these practices do exist in other traditions, you know. Of course, they are a bit more of a devotional practice, you know. We have to see the quality, think about and feel and see some quality in that deity, some connection with that deity, because we want to develop that quality in our being, you know, that essence of compassion in our being, that essence of healing, that essence of female power, wisdom, enlightening quality, activity, Tara. So this is the other dimension that we're trying to bring in, you know, and this is kind of, you know, a very sort of, Tantra's kind of like a fast track, the fast track to enlightenment, but without the sort of grounding, there's no fast track. We just kind of fly off and don't, you know, don't go very far, you know. So we still always need the grounding and the Lam Rim, but it's a kind of, you know, Tantra and Sutra together is this incredible combination to kind of fast track our kind of practice of the Lam Rim, our deepening of these feelings of or experiences, you know, more bodhicitta, more emptiness, more renunciation. What does that mean? You know, feeling samsara, the suffering of samsara more. This combination helps to bring about some of the Lam Rim experiences more quickly. So, you know, here, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's our holy guru for this organization, he talked, you know, for 40 years continually on the benefits of holy objects. That was one of Rinpoche's favorite topics for us. So the benefits of just looking, you know, what do these holy objects embody? Well, they embody enlightened consciousness, you know, the ultimate development of our consciousness. A resultant state of enlightenment. We are here, and that's where we want to be, where they are. So that's, you know, that's why we're trying to get close to that mind, you know, that experience, that quality. So here, Chenrezig, this is 4-arm Chenrezig, the 4-arm Buddha of compassion. So ultimately, I mean, there's a lot we're trying to develop, but ultimately what we embodied in this, what we call enlightenment, is we're trying to develop the holy body of the Buddha. The goal is we want to have the holy body of the Buddha, the holy speech of the Buddha, and the holy mind. So there's 3 enlightened qualities. There's not just like I become enlightened and I'm off there in space somewhere, I don't know, beyond myself. There's actually, it's a very active development of qualities that we want to have, we want to bring forth in ourselves. And then particularly, I think I mentioned when I said the objects, certain objects that we want to have on our altar. We want to have an image of the enlightened body of the Buddha, like Chenrezig. So the qualities of Chenrezig, the enlightened body, is a body that's beyond birth and death, beyond sickness, beyond illness, heat and cold, being born in warm, torn places, all that. It's a body that pervades all phenomena. It's a very subtle body called Dharmakaya, truth body. And our consciousness pervades with wisdom all beings and all phenomena. It sees all beings' minds, sees the nature of all phenomena, and everything's pure. There's no taint, there's no suffering, but that mind is able to access other beings and help them according to their capacity. That's just one of the qualities of the enlightened sort of body. Well, the body of the Buddha is more pervading all beings' consciousness. The speech is about having this quality, and even people who are around holy beings, sometimes they, you can be in a teaching, and I've definitely experienced this with some other Sangha, that when Rinpoche or some other beings are teaching, we hear different things because their speech can reach different people at different times according to what they need. It's very mind-blowing. But sometimes you come out of a teaching and somebody heard this, somebody heard that, and they didn't hear the other thing, not just because they were spacing out, it's just because the quality of enlightened speech, it can reach, it can see all beings' minds, what they need, and it can also talk in sort of like different tongues at the same time. And it has this power where I think I mentioned before, you just hear a few words and it has a very, very strong impact on your mind, especially when you're one-to-one with a holy being and receiving advice. It has this kind of impact that, as ordinary beings, it's not easy to have, And then quality enlightened mind is more about, yes, again, it's like seeing all beings' phenomena and capacity, and also being able to manifest in certain ways according to other beings' capacity. So it's just in a nutshell, you can actually read to great lengths what the quality of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha is. It's really mind-blowing. But that's generally the direction we want to go. So every time we see an image of the Buddha, the more we know, I think when we do the module on refuge, it's module maybe 6, number 6, that's when we study who is the Buddha, what is the Dharma, what is the Sangha, what are those qualities? And then we get a really good idea of like where we're trying to go, and how we really kind of respect those qualities as well. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, every time we see an image of the Buddha, it creates this kind of imprint on our mind to certainly have the body of the Buddha, but even if we think about the speech of the Buddha, having all these qualities to, talk in many languages and tongues and reach beings' minds in different ways, it's unbelievable. And then the mind that can pervade all phenomena is beyond birth and death, If we even just a little bit think about the qualities, it kind of makes you want to put your palms together and think, wow, that's amazing. May I become like that one day? That is just a meditation itself. Even if you woke up in the morning and just looked at your altar and did that, wow. That's what Lama Zopa would say. Wow, that's such a strong imprint on the mind, just to rejoice. Not thinking, poor me, I can't do it, I'm no good, just thinking, wow, amazing, that's wonderful. And I have the seeds, I can do that, step by step by step. So, yeah, so alongside using a particular deity, Buddha, aspect of the Buddha, we also usually do prayers, to enhance our faith and conviction. And similar to what I was sort of describing here, taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, it's kind of like this prayer reminds us, until I achieve enlightenment, until I achieve all the qualities of the Holy Buddha, the body of the Buddha, speech of the Buddha, mind of the Buddha, until I get there, my refuge is Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. That's where I'm going. And, I'm just going to keep traversing the path. So that's the sort of causal, what we call causal refuge, taking out refuge outside of ourselves and the Buddha outside, the spiritual teachings outside, and the Sangha. Sangha is very, very important. The Supreme Assembly or the Sangha. So, of course, the Supreme Assembly is that, this the really are beings, Sangha, who have already, some realization, maybe realization of emptiness, realization of conventional bodhicitta, and then there's the sort of conventional Sangha, like ordinary guys like myself, who's no realizations, but, traversing the path, so trying to like step by step move in that direction. And also there's our lay Dharma brothers and sisters. So we really need all those different levels of Sangha. It's very important. We need those three. So every morning we think, okay, I take refuge in those three, and then, from my practice of the perfections, giving, generosity, morality, patience. Anybody else know the other perfections? I know Urs does. So we've got perfection of generosity. This is what we practice on the Bodhisattva path. Generosity. We have to keep practicing generosity. Morality. Yep. Somebody's saying something there. You have to bring your no. What's the other one, Susie? Susie's here, love. So Bay knows what it is. Bay.
Patience.
Yes, yeah, patience. And then what's the fourth one? Oh, we've got a chat here. Maybe somebody's writing in the chat. Let me check.
Concentration.
Yep. Patience, concentration, yes.
Joyous
Wisdom.
effort.
So there's one more that's very important, number 4.
Enthusiasm.
Bay's going to know that. Bay?
Joyous effort or
Yes.
enthusiasm.
Well, humour's right, because you're right, Joe, but it's humour with diligence. It's called joyous effort. So I think for Westerners, joyous effort's probably a better translation than diligence, because we might get a bit tight with diligence. It depends on our personalities, But certainly all those aspects in there, determination, diligence, effort with a sense of joyfulness and happiness, So that one's extreme, they're all very, very important, but without the diligence, not much is happening, So although it's number 4, because it's a particular type of joyous effort that we're really trying to sort of refine and perfect, but we really need that one. We need all of them right now. We need a little bit of all of them right now. We need to, and that's why it says, by my merit from continually nurture and practice these perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all beings or who are transmigrating in samsara, who are going from one life to next life, and still haven't realized emptiness. That's the reality, We're in there. We're in that wheel. And again, that'll become, some of us have more teachings in that than others. But, it's something that we can't hear enough of, because we forget we're in samsara a lot. Until maybe we get quite old and maybe we sort of remember, and because the suffering seems more pertinent, But either way, so that's why, especially on the Bodhisattva path, this is what we need to perfect, these 6 perfections. And again, as we go through the DB, we go in more detail about, also what the 6 perfections are, and how we cultivate them. I mean, it can just be in very small ways every day. We can get very skillful about practicing these, it doesn't have to be huge, giving away our body and all these things, we can build up our practice of generosity, morality, diligence in very small, sort of joyful ways. So that's the causal refuge, is when we take out a refuge in the outside guys who are going to help us, the Buddhas, the teachings, the Sangha. And that's important. We have to have that causal refuge, this is who's helping us. We're taking refuge in you out there. And as Lama said, Lama Yeshe, But the other refuge that's very important for us to remember, it's not like all out there and I'm low, I'm no good, I'm no this, and they're all great out there, is that every day to kind of get a feeling of our own potential to become Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. You know, I have within me the resultant, it's kind of like the resultant refuge is taking refuge in the result. What happens from taking refuge in the outer objects is the result is we become Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. That's the resultant refuge. And even in a way right now, our resultant refuge is just connecting with our potential for that result. Because there's no, I mean, even Shantideva said the smallest ant can become a Buddha. He's a sentient being. He's a possessor in mind and consciousness. And on that basis, even an ant has a seedy enlightenment. It just simply needs to be developed. So certainly as humans, we can do, you know. And certainly as humans, especially in, you know, our culture and environment, we really need Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And particularly we need Sangha. A little bit of chat going on here. Oh. Okay, so why don't we simply release our attachment to samsara? Ah. Well, that would be very nice. Okay, Laurel, thank you for joining. And yeah, please let us know how she's probably left already, but we'll dedicate for Laurel in the end. She's having a surgery there. I think that's a big question, Joe. Can we leave that? But to put it in a simple way, it's not simple. You know, just like we've created causes and conditions in our mind to have a lot of attachment through the power of familiarity, we need to create a lot of causes and conditions in our mind to release our mind from samsara, from attachment. Our mind is a causative phenomena. So we're simply in the state of attachment because we've generated a huge habituation with that. I mean, it's just like saying, why can't somebody just stop being an alcoholic? Just release it, just let go, you know. Just stop drinking. Very few can do that, you know. They need to go and get, you know, they need to go into a place, they need to get help, they need to have people around them who's doing the same thing, they need to take other drugs for a while to get them off. I mean, and samsara is much more deep than that, you know. So it's you know, we have to create the inner and outer causes and conditions to release our mind from attachment. It's a deep sickness in the mind. Like any sickness in the body, we can't just say, oh, I just want to release myself from it and that's it. I just feel like it, I'm released now. No, it's a causative, you know, it takes a lot of causes and conditions. That help a little bit?
I'm going to gently disagree and leave it at that.
Okay, no worries. Hopefully you'll
with love and compassion.
No worries, yeah. Well, I you know, if you've found a solution to releasing, please let me know. That's kind of more spontaneous. So, oh, sorry, where are we now? Let me just close this little window here. So, I've sipped through too many here. Right, we were on there. We're on this one. Oh, so yeah, so refuge is one of the prayers that generally, as once we've taken refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which I think some of us have, you know, this is a ceremony you can take like when you get christened, you know, in the church, you know, some of us are christened at a young age, you know, but some of us are christened older. So then we kind of take this kind of leap of, you know, we decide that that's our spiritual practice, you know, that's what we take refuge in, either Christ or God. And this particular situation, we're taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is our relief from samsara, you know, a remedy to samsara. So every morning when you take refuge, after you've taken the refuge vow and commitments from a teacher, then we have a commitment to recite this refuge prayer every day to affirm that refuge. You know, there's a huge amount of benefits in doing that we'll study more in the refuge section of this module. So another prayer that we do as part of a sort of practice of either a Chenrezig practice, medicine Buddha, Tara, is to offer mandala. So again, we're not going to go into a lot of detail in this module, but you know, we kind of know that in order to receive, there's a kind of feeling where there's a giving process that has to happen from our side as well, an opening. And the opening comes through what we call in this tradition creating merit. You know, our mind starts to open as we purify the mind, cleanse the mind, attachments, karma, delusion, and we create what we call this base of merit, good fortune, positivity in the mind. So offering, giving is one way of creating merit. You know, it creates this wholesome environment. What we want to create in our mind is a really healthy environment. Like, you know, when we want to plant a garden, a very beautiful garden, and we're just faced with kind of like, you know, the earth's no good and there's rubble and stones and everything like that. Our mind can feel a little bit like that sometimes, you know, there's nothing really happening in there, you know. Some days we meditate and it's like, wow, wow, wow. And other days it's just like nothing's happening, you know. It's not moving, nothing's moving your mind. So how we overcome that, the remedy to that in this tradition is purifying and collecting merit. Again, it's a whole system to support the development of realizations, never mind realizations, just experiences, and more heart-opening experiences, maybe little insights into what do they mean by emptiness. You know, maybe you get some insights to that sometimes. Maybe sometimes you feel like, wow, my life is so precious, I'm so fortunate. You know, these different lamb-rim topics. So as a support for them to ripen and feel more deeply in our mind, we need to collect merit. And one way, you know, in these practices is through the short mandala offering. In a nutshell, what we're doing is we're offering the universe, this ground anointed with perfume. You see the mudra there? So this is a picture of the mudra. We actually use our body, you know, like we want to achieve the body of the Buddha. So in a lot of these practices, we're always using our body, speech and mind in meditation and practice to eventually purify our body and speech and mind. So it becomes the body, speech and mind of the Buddha. So we use all the three doors. And a mandala basically is a depiction of the universe. So for us at this level, without going into a longer teaching mandala, it's a way to create merit. It's a way for us to open, practice generosity by visualizing that we are offering our, you know, all our own enjoyments, the beautiful environment that we work in, that we live in or work in, share with others, all the beauties in the universe that we can imagine. So it's things we own and that we don't own, we visualize offering to that particular deity or Buddha. And we kind of chant the verse and then offer it to the heart of that Buddha. So it's this training our mind in this perfection of generosity through visualization. And of course, also we can practice generosity by offering things on the altar, definitely by offering things to others, but there's a special sort of reason why we would offer this mandala and some of the objects in it. It creates this kind of special imprint on the mind. So just now for sort of simplicity, we can imagine just, you know, really from our heart, trying to offer ourselves, our practice, our service, what we enjoy, maybe things we're attached to. Again, this is trying to release attachment by offering it at least visually, mentally at this point, through familiarity with, you know, visualization and offering mentally, gradually our capacity to actually be generous increases just through, again, what's Gom? Familiarity. Gom is the Tibetan word for meditation. And all these practices create a familiarity in the mind where things become more easy for us. Before it was difficult to give, but through our sitting practice, our meditation, all of a sudden it's easier to give to this person or that person. Or there's some sort of profundity or blessing in these practices to open up the mind in the direction more of these six perfections. And in this particular case, the perfection of generosity. So we will have an FPMT at some point, a little ritual introduction to ritual training, where we will learn the mandala offering prayers and some of the chants and in a deeper level, you know, how to develop these on our in a daily practice. But next week we will start with a short Tara practice with these two prayers, and just to give you an idea of sort of how they go and how they're chanted. So again, just briefly, these four what we're offering here, these 4 points. So actually, in the universal, Buddhist cosmology, we're just a very small part. I mean, even scientists know there's billions of universes, yeah? So the Buddhists already discovered this, enlightened beings already discovered, the scientists are just catching up, but in Buddhist cosmology, there are, 4 world systems that we're part of, a system where there's 4 world systems, and we're in one continent called the southern continent of Jambudvipa, the rose apple land, and it's called that because we have a lot of fruit trees. The others are called Gundinya, Kuru, Videha, and they all have different qualities, and all the beings there have different lifespans, different shapes of face, different karma. So we can be reborn in any of those places. But so in this mandala, you'd have to study a bit more to see what the different qualities of the different universes are. But basically, we're just like, a needle in a haystack of, billions of universes that exist. And this is just one universe that we're a part of that has 4 world systems within it. So that's kind of what we're offering there, just this world system. But if you can, you sort of spread it out to all the world systems and all the enjoyments. And again, that's really part of a bigger teaching. When one maybe wants to sort of do more mandala offerings on a daily basis, that's something that you would study, the deeper understanding and visualization of the mandala. So I just wanted to drop in very briefly to this tonight, because we're going to do this next week. So part of doing a deity practice, Kriya Tantra practice, in conjunction with, alongside our Lam Rim and our sort of stabilization analytical meditation, is using the mantra of the deity. So it's nice to remember. I think it's very helpful to remember what mantra means. It's not really getting into some psychic state or getting spaced out somewhere. The literal meaning is to guard the mind, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, and that is the Sanskrit translation. Mind protection, guarding the mind, protecting the mind from our delusion, from our, negative states. When we're reciting the mantra, it's more difficult for our mind to generate anger, jealousy, pride. We'll see that, as we get familiar with a mantra, it has this effect on the mind that settles the mind. So as it says here, it's a set of Sanskrit syllables that invoke the energy of a particular Buddha or Bodhisattva. It's a sacred sound that brings blessings to your... So we have a, gross body, as we know from the 9-round purification. We have also subtle body, So mantra's working more with the subtle energies in the body, the wind and mind, subtle winds and mind. It's resonating with that and trying to bring about the kind of quality of that mantra within the more subtle parts of yourself. It's sort of awakening up these more subtle but very, very powerful minds that we have that are kind of sleeping right now a lot of the time. As Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, it's a tool to transform the mind into the quality of that mantra, the essence of that mantra. So last week, I think Gus asked about why they're in Sanskrit. Because it's true, all the teachings of the Buddha have been translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan to Pali. I mean, some of them are originally in Pali, but they've been translated in many different languages. But it doesn't matter what language the teachings are translated into, the mantras are always kept in the Sanskrit language. Because there's an essential sound or quality of the mantra that that resonates with our subtle wind mind. We have a special karma with the Sanskrit language, and that's why the Buddha taught mantra. I mean, he taught, the tantric teachings in Sanskrit, and particularly the mantras, to be kept in that form, because a certain karma we have where these mantras awaken these more subtle consciousnesses, awaken these qualities within us, that being translated into another language, it wouldn't have that effect or power. So as it says here, each of the syllables have within them a deep meaning. Within them a quality, a sound, a resonance that has the power to transform our mind. So I'm just giving you here different quotes to kind of clarify as much as we can what mantra's doing. So again, I think I mentioned in the beginning, it's another way to really concentrate the mind, not just using an external object or breath, but actually we can very much concentrate the mind through mantra, reciting mantra. Then mantra can have, if we feel some connection with certain mantras, when we recite them, then the mind can go quite quiet. And then we can use that as an object of meditation, Sometimes the mind can go quiet, or the quality of the mantra can awaken this kind of feeling of, emptiness or space or, compassion, and we can just be in that, it sort of awakens the more subtle consciousnesses. And in those spaces, there's another type of meditation where we can use subtle consciousness to meditate on emptiness, to meditate on bodhicitta, because those subtle consciousness are more powerful than our gross sense consciousnesses and even our gross mental consciousness. So actually, even though we've done some breathing, we've done some analytical, then we meditate, we do some mantra, and then just sit in this, after we've done the mantra, just sit in the space of what's that mantra doing, what effect does it have in your mind? So just to finish for this evening, and then we'll start next week with the next slide. So one mantra particularly, the most sort of commoner one that we usually start with is the mantra Shakyamuni Buddha, that Lama Yeshe introduced Westerners to in the early days. So one, Om, the meaning here means magnificent knowledge, wisdom and power. Then Muni Muni, sorry. How do I get in the chat? Okay. Sorry, got to leave any more. Is meditation on nature of mind and its changeability. Mahamudra is meditation on the nature of mind, nature of consciousness. Mahamudra means the great seal, so that means everything is sealed. In reality, in our deepest experience of our mind and all phenomena, everything is in the nature of emptiness. So any meditation on emptiness, nature of consciousness, is Mahamudra. Is there a resource that explains in detail the hand gesture for the mandala offering? Yes, there is. I can try and find that for you next week. I'll try and bring it up for anyone who wants next week. I'll get you the link for that. Does listening to recorded mantras? Well, it definitely benefits your mind. Yeah, it's very good to listen to recorded mantras, and it's also good to recite them both. So I think we do need to develop a habit of reciting the mantras ourselves. But it's also very good to listen to recordings. So I think I wouldn't say it's either or. I think ideal if we can do both. Does that answer your question, Damien?
Yes, thank you.
So here the mantra Tayata Om Muni Muni, Mahamuni Yusoha. The meaning is control, great controlling greatest control. So what we're talking about here is invoking the energy, the Buddha, the quality of the Buddha to have the control he has over his delusions, Control he has over the mind, So the Buddha achieved a state of fearlessness. He has these eight fearlessnesses because he has developed, the ultimate realizations of emptiness and bodhicitta. So the Buddha's free of fears, he's on what we call on top of death, on top of rebirth. We're still under the control of death and rebirth. But he's gained he's the great conqueror of all the different levels of delusions in the mind. So in a basic way, what we're invoking is that power, that magnificence he has, that wisdom to also gradually be able to conquer our own karma and delusions, to be the hero of our own karma and delusion. Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to always say, you know, when you go to the countries, there's often, certainly in Scotland, you know, we have all these, where I was born, some of you might have seen the movie Braveheart. Have you seen it, Susie?
Of course.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Well, I was born where Braveheart, it wasn't, I think it was filmed in Ireland actually, and you know, who was the actor again? The American actor?
Mel Gibson.
No, it wasn't Russell Crowe, it was
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson, yeah. So of course he wasn't English, he's not Scottish, but never mind, he did a pretty good job at the time. So he, anyway, you know, where I was born, where the two battles were fought, the Battle of Stirling and the Battle of Bannockburn. I lived in Bannockburn when I was very young, and I was born in the Stirling Hospital. So you know, all that history happened there. That's the two places I always say where the Scottish beat the English. And then they moved to like, and you know, about half an hour along the road. In those days, it was probably like a 3-hour walk or something, you know, but now it's like a 10-minute drive. But then they were defeated by, you know, he was defeated, William Wallace in Falkirk, and then he was hung, drawn and quartered. But nonetheless, where I was born, you know, there was these statues of William Wallace because he fought the English, and, you know, and I don't know, he could have been a bodhisattva, who knows, you know, bodhisattvas manifest in many forms. But they have these statues because he was a great, you know, he conquered the English, you know, he killed many people. He was very strong, you know, and he inspired a lot of other people to fight and kill, and, you know, so, you know, you often see that in places, certainly around the UK, there's loads of statues of these, you know, generals or soldiers or whoever who fought in battles. And so Rinpoche used to always say they should have statues of like Sangha or, you know, great holy beings, which they do in the East, you know, much more, because they've conquered the delusions. And that's the biggest conquest. And the more we practice, the more you have a huge appreciation for that, you know, these beings who have really, really put in so much work to conquer the inner problem of the delusion. So that's why Shakyamuni is often called the conqueror, because he's conquered all the gross and subtle delusions, you know, that cause the continuation of samsara. He ceased that, you know. He ceased suffering. That's the third noble truth, you know, that he's achieved, you know. So he's the great, for us, he's like he's the guy, you know. That's what, of course, why in the centers we have statues of Shakyamuni Buddha, because he's the guy, you know. But, you know, in ordinary world, it's often like, and it's not that these beings aren't brave in some respect, but it's much harder to conquer the delusions. It's take many, many lifetimes, you know. Not to to feel despondent by that. Because each time we make a sort of small impact or indentation on our mind, and we feel that, it's incredible. You feel so much happier. You know? So every time we make a little bit of, you know, progress, and we see that, it's like so much to rejoice in, you know, for ourselves, and also when we see it in others, you know, who practice, and we think, wow, they're a little bit patient after 10 years, more patient, you know, or more kind, or whatever. We see some change in others. It's very good to rejoice, you know, as in ourselves and in others. So that's what's happening. You know, this is really what we're invoking here, that power, that magnificence of the Buddha, his strength, his determination, all that goes into developing and sustaining a spiritual path that's gradually chipping away at the delusions. That's the essence of that mantra. So see if there's one more question, and then we'll finish for tonight, if there is. William will. Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, I read about his life story, and he was actually from some aristocracy, I think, as well, you know. So it was definitely a little bit different from the history, but that's usually what Hollywood is. And yeah, he died in a very horrendous way as well, hung, drawn and quartered, you know. But so anyway, it's just to kind of emphasize that the real heroes for us are those really, as for Dharma practitioners, who really work on the mind, you know, really put incredible effort in to work on the delusions, you know, to become at the minimum a better person, and ideally long term, you know, a Buddha with all the enlightened qualities of body, speech and mind. So I think, is this the dead? Okay, so let's do. Okay, thank you so much. So we have one more week of this class. And I'm going to send a couple of meditations to Isabella tomorrow. So if any of you have time, maybe next week we can see a little bit if anybody's engaged in. I'd like to do a little bit sharing if anybody's had time to do some of the meditations, if they have something to share that I've sent through Isabella. That would be nice to do a bit of sharing that. We also have a practice day coming up on July 27th at Land of Medicine Buddha. So again, that'll be very much focused on kind of nurturing our development of our daily practice, something you feel that you can go away with and practice, hopefully, or just adding to whatever you're already doing will be wonderful too. And it'll be nice if some of you are able to come in person. It'd be nice to be able to see you face to face. Otherwise, if you can't, of course, I hope we can see some of you on Zoom. Okay, so let's seal. So again, this is one of the aspects of practice. We motivate, we do the, we sort of settle our mind, motivate, do the main body of the practice, and then we do always seal with dedications. We want to dedicate and direct our prayers towards the accomplishment of our, Buddhahood, the accomplishment of the full development of our mind, not just for ourselves, but gradually to be able to benefit all other beings on the spiritual path. Ogevadi nyudurak lama sangeru gyurne drova jigyamalupa deye sala gobar shojanju sencho rinpoche Mage banam yegershik ye banyamba me ba ye gone gondu pelwar shok. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And just taking a moment to connect whatever other dedication that you want to make. View of everybody open. I'm pressing this. Oh, I'll share you, yeah. Okay. Okay, now I see everyone. Okay, so just trying to get a view of everyone. Just at the very end there to see you all. I can't have the big view on the whole time because I've got the screen share, but anyway, thank you for joining everybody and hopefully see you, Bears, Carol. Ladan. Okay, thank you so much. Hopefully see you next week. Thank you. Thanks.
Good, Angie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.